Hello, welcome to another video on my little channel. Thank you for dropping by. Sorry for the lack of content these past few weeks. I've been very busy with work and a couple of other things and drawing, trying to keep up with my social media so Instagram doesn't forget me. Whew, Instagram and Reddit, as a matter of fact. And things have been going well, but yeah, I've been super busy. But I'm back and I've tried to find a little time for YouTube. Today, I'm going to try to avoid elevator music and have something where we talk a little more about why I do things the way I do them. Remembering that none of what I say is gospel. This is the way I go about things. There are many good ways to go about things. This is just what works for me and what I've learned in my years of doing this. So let's get into it. And yeah, by now you must have noticed that I pretty much have a routine when it comes to the way I attack my drawings. Basically, once I found a subject, I will build a space, slowly fill it up, proceed with the inking, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk a bit today about why I make the choices I do and see if that's interesting to you. So, coffee is needed for this one, so let's go. Coffee is life. Anyway, let's go. So, yeah, my last drawing was, the video was about some buildings, and today I thought I'd skip the page you can see on the left here, because that's another building, and instead tackle a little sci-fi living quarters instead. This is one of my favorite things to draw, so it's always fun. And yeah, I had a very, very loose idea once more getting into this. Very small studio, sci-fi, slightly cyberpunkish. Try to make it exciting with some light source and something that looks lived in. That's about it. So the way I went about it is the usual. So I put a little frame on my page here. The reason I only make it that small and don't do a whole page is because markers are atrociously expensive. And I can make more drawings that way in my sketchbook without completely breaking the bank. Talking about which, I have set up a Patreon, and your support is greatly appreciated. I have uploaded my first little tutorial on one-point perspective there, and I plan to do quite a few more. So if you want to have some say into the next videos, or maybe have some special videos made to answer your questions on Patreon, head up there. It's immensely appreciated. Thank you very much. So this drawing here, I'm going to do a two-point perspective drawing again, even though this would work perfectly well as a one-point perspective. Why do I always add a second one? I think for interior drawings like this, it makes the drawing just a lot more dynamic and a lot more interesting to look at. Having a distant vanishing point somewhere on one side gives you that slanted back wall instead of having just a rectangle in front of you and have everything nice and neat and parallel. This makes it just a little more dynamic, gives a little more movement to the image, and slightly more realistic, as you'll seldom find yourself facing a wall, dead on. You'll always look a little to the side. So that's the way I like to put it. I think it's more fun than a one point, but again, you could perfectly decide to do this thing in a one-point perspective method. If that's something you're practicing, keep up at it, and once you feel comfortable, then just add one little point to your left or your right, and play around, see what that does. I think you'll find the results to be exciting. Anyway, once I have the seating, back wall, left wall, right wall, floor, I'll start putting elements in my drawing, just the big blocks of where things will belong. I've put a line here on the left of my frame because I think I want to see a door in that frame. Again, a foreground, simple as it is, no matter how, I think really helps with giving depth to the drawing and often makes the scene look just that little more realistic. So this is a low effort way of doing it. Just, yeah, have a wall or a door show on your foreground. Once I have that, I'm going to think about what I want in my room. It's living quarters, so I know I'll want a bed. The world into which I'm building all this is not a very friendly one, so I don't want it to be luxurious. I don't want it to be lush. I want it to be somewhat cramped, somewhat dirty, not very ergonomic. In fact, I won't even put a chair in this, and I will be putting some shelves or some flat surfaces at somewhat awkward heights. I don't want it to look very, very comfortable. I don't want it to look over cramped either, but I want to put enough little things in it to make it look really busy. I know that much, so that's about the plan I have. I'll start by putting a bed on the left, some cupboards in the front. I've decided I want a big light source, and that's going to be a window on the right hand side, and the rest will just come as we go. Improvise, people. It's a fun way to stretch those creative muscles. Once we've got that roughly in place, what I'll do is, in pencil, I'll put a few items left and right, some books, some boxes, very loose, just as a note for later to remind me, okay, this is where I'd like this sort of thing to be. As it's in pencil, I can always change it later. And as it's just a note, I don't want to do all the details, all the little things there. That's something I can do later. Once, everything's in place, I'll just put the ink. Now, that's the first time I really commit to the drawing, because these will be harder to modify later. So gentle and freehand on this one, because in my sketchbook anyway, I like to practice my my lines. I think doing it in your sketchbook is a risk-free way of practicing your lines, and the more you do it, the more it will improve your freehand sketching later. So don't be afraid of that. Don't try to be too neat. And remember that you can always fix things. And don't be afraid of mistakes either. Never let a wrong line or an ink blot or anything stop you in a drawing. Keep on drawing, push through. And I think it's very useful to learn to live with mistakes you have on your drawing. I always say that when I do them, I'll try to see if I can fix them. If I can't, then I'll try to see if there's a way to distract from them somewhere on the drawing. And if I can't, then I'll see what I can do to live with it. And I think you'll see on the next video I will upload that I made a bit of a blunder somewhere. But carried on, and I think in the end the drawing works. You'll let me know what you think on the next video. Once I've done the inking here, the big choices show up. For me, that's always light, color, and shadows. For colors, I've become fond of using a mix of warm and cold and nearly opposite colors. So for this one, I've used a layer of a pink, salmon pink, I think it was called. I think it was an R02 from Copic. And that's going to be what will be in the light. And this is what's going to bring the warmth to the picture. For the shadows, I'm using some bluish cool grays. And I'll be working gingerly. In the beginning of the drawing, I will use shades that are way too light and markers that are way too dry. And I will build from there slowly with darker tones until I reach something that I find is acceptable. I'm not going crazy with accuracy here. It's eyeballed. It's guesswork. It's trying to create the illusion of accuracy without doing, well, much of the work. You let me know if that works. I think I get away with quite a bit on this, and yeah, I want to keep that sketchy appearance, so I don't need things to be, spot on. I think indicating stuff, trying to fool the brain in telling you, okay, there's a shadow here and that makes sense, is enough for this kind of illustration. once the colors and the shadows are there, it's all about building contrast. So adding darker tones and until you think, you know, it's dark enough. I like to always go a step beyond what I think is dark enough, and most of the time I'm surprised to see that it works even better that way. Remember that contrast is really, really important in drawings, and having a high contrast makes image pop a lot more. So don't be afraid, experiment with that. Better to go too far and realize, okay, this is as far as I could go, than have something that lacks contrast and you don't even know it. So push yourself a little there and see what happens. I think it's a good way to go about this sort of drawings. In the end, I'll just throw a few highlights with this wonderful pen that I've discovered recently, which is very chalky and allows me to make some very undefined lines, very undefined highlights, and you can rub it with your finger on the panels you've drawn. I think it works. Again, this is a matter of trial and error. Play around. This pen is very forgiving, a lot more than a Posca pen would be, where it's actually very hard to cover it up with marker if you've done something wrong. This really allows you to put a highlight somewhere, try to dim it a little, and you can almost completely erase it if you think it didn't belong there in the end. So there you go. This brings us to a pretty finished drawing. I try to make it not too cramped, but putting the books, the folders, the boxes makes it lived in enough. The glass and possibly a bottle on the shelf near the window help as well. A few papers on the ground, a little stain here and there, a little mark, a little dent. I don't think I went overboard. I think this is just enough to carry the atmosphere that I wanted this drawing to have. Again, I will let you be the judge of that. You tell me, and we'll see if I can make the next one better. In the meantime, we're pretty much at the end of this. I've kept it at under 15 minutes because I know your time is precious, and no one wants to spend an hour listening to me ramble on YouTube, cut off by elevator music. So we're trying this new format. We'll see how that goes. Please let me know in the comments what you think of the video, of the drawing. If you have any questions, if there's anything you'd like answered or just want to talk about, and I'll be more than happy to answer you. And I really, really need your help to make this channel go anywhere. As fun as it is for me to record and chat over these videos, ultimately I want them to have a meaning and to be helpful to you guys. So your input and your opinion on what you see here is really invaluable to me. I really want to try to make this a fun experience, but also possibly to give pointers left and right if you're interested in drawing or developing this sort of a sci-fi world or concepts. So let me know, talk to me, people, and I'll do my very best to give my best answers. Once again, do consider checking out my Patreon page. Link will be in the description. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. We can talk about it on my Patreon page if you'd rather see the interior of a spaceship that I've done, a pilot's chair with some controls, or that big mysterious building that you've seen on the left page of my sketchbook here. Let me know. All right, you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for dropping by. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.